Hermann Simon is with us. This gentleman, this professor, who was Harvard Business School visiting professor, INSEAD, Keio University in Japan, actually the best universities he was teaching at. He is the author of 30 books. And he showed me that in these bookshelves he has behind him, there are a lot of books. And some of the books he wrote himself. He didn't buy them. He wrote them, which is even more interesting. The author of 30 books. And we are going to talk today with Hermann Simon about money, about profit. Dear Hermann, thank you so much for coming. I'm happy to see you. Behind you, there is one phrase, true profit. So you don't want to talk with people who don't have profit, who don't have money, you think they're useless. Why true profit behind you? Tell me.
That's actually the most recent book, True Profit, which just appeared a couple of weeks ago.
This is your book. So your opinion that if in business there is no profit, this is useless business, or what is that?
Profit is the cost of survival, and true profit is what the entrepreneur can keep after he or she has fulfilled all his obligations against suppliers, employees, banks, the state, etc. That's only true profit. And most of the time when people talk about profit, journalists report on profit, it's not true profit. It's EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes. And they pack everything into this number, but it's not profit, it's deception.
So what you recommend us for people who don't have big profit? You're completely demotivate us. You say, whatever you have, you should deduct tax, you should deduct everything, only then it's profit, isn't it?
Yeah, only what you can keep is profit. What you have to pay to the banks, to the suppliers is of course not profit. Only profit is what you are adding to the things you buy. So it's value added. What you create more than you put into your product or service. Only that is profit, value added. And if you want to understand how profit is created, you have to look at the profit drivers. And there are only three. It's actually quite simple. Price, sales volume, and cost. There are only three profit drivers. And you have to manage them to, at the end, have a true profit.
Professor, tell me please, can I call you professor or you are not professor anymore?
You can call me Hermann. You can call me Hermann. That's fine. Yeah.
You were teaching in Harvard, you were teaching in Japan, and you actually traveling around the world. Is there is big difference in mentality of business people in Russia, in Germany, in Japan, or it is all the same?
Yes, of course. You already have a big difference between Western Europe and the United States. So you think that they are quite similar. Americans are more short-term and more profit-oriented than Europeans. In Japan, you have a very different attitude. Market share, being the market leader, is a very important goal there, and often profit suffers from this situation. And in China, it's again different. The Chinese are very impatient. They want everything to happen very, very quickly. So, for instance, a big challenge for the Chinese is to build global brands, because building a global brand requires a lot of patience. It takes years and not just weeks or months. So the business cultures in the various regions of the world are very, very different.
What about Germany? The Germans are one of the best business people as far as we know. What is the model in Germany?
Yeah, but the German companies are not very profitable. The average profitability in terms of return on sales over many years over all countries is about 5%. So if you cross $100 or 100 euros, you can keep 5% on the average as profits, as true profit. And in Germany, the average profitability is only 3.4, and that has different reasons. One reason is that Germans are very employment oriented. So you want you avoid by all means to have to fire people. You keep them, which is maybe good for the long term, but not so good for the short term profit. Then we are in a lot of mature industries. The big profits are made in modern industries, in tech industries, where the Americans are strong, or in energy, where Gazprom or the Middle East companies, Saudi Aramco, are very, very strong. And so the average profitability in Germany is actually quite low, below the average.
Yes, the profitability is quite low, but it is one of the best economies in the world. You are still one of the strongest. And in the emerging markets, let's say in Kazakhstan, we are looking for profitability 15%. We are looking for huge numbers. And even in the Middle East, if you say 3%, everybody will say, what is that? There is no business in that. So, but Germany is one of the biggest economies in the world and the best economy in Europe. So, what you suggest? What is your ideal profitability for the business?
We have to understand why Germany is so strong. Germany has by far the biggest per capita export, and also the large companies. Volkswagen is market leader in China. Imagine that. Volkswagen has a market share of 15% in China, but our real strength lies in the mid-sized companies. And I call them hidden champions because they are global market leaders in thousands of markets, but nobody knows them. So champions on the one side, but hidden on the other side. And these are mostly family companies, which are at least less short-term profit-oriented than typically publicly listed companies. And that is the true strength of Germany, the hidden champions, mid-sized, little-known global market leaders. And we have more of these companies than any other country in the world.
Hermann, will you recommend these hidden champions? Because you are speaking now with hidden heroes. Hidden Heroes is hosting Hidden Champions. Our platform is called Hidden Heroes, and you are talking about Hidden Champions. Will you recommend to these Hidden Champions to become bigger, to become global famous, to do big marketing, not to be unknown in Germany?
Of course, how do large corporations come into being? By mid-sized companies who keep on growing. And just to give you 3 examples of former hidden champions who are big champions now, that is Fresenius Medical Care with a revenue of $30 billion. And they are the global leader in kidney treatment, in dialysis. SAP, today everybody knows SAP, but 20 years ago, they were a small company with a little over 1 billion euros in revenue. Or a third one is ZF, one of the largest automotive suppliers in the world. And they had a revenue of about 2 billion 20 years ago. Now they are 35 billion euros in revenue. So this mid-sized sector is also the driver of long-term growth stories. These are growth rates and multiplications which you do not expect in Germany. On the average, my German hidden champions, they had an average revenue of $95 million in 20 years ago. Today, they have an average revenue of $500 million. So they are 5 times larger than 20 years ago. And very often they have global market shares of 70 or 80%. They are specialists, but unbeatable in their niches, in their market niches and segments.
So
let me just give you one example.
Hermann, it's not bad to be unbeatable in your niche, to be the best in your niche. It's actually great for the business, even if you are mid-term. And maybe for some businesses, no need to become bigger, because when you become bigger, you become, in the spotlight of tax, of social responsibility. When you are medium size, maybe on one way it's better than to be global.
That's true, but they are still growing. They are becoming bigger, but not as big as the Fortune Global 500. The Fortune Global 500 are the 500 biggest companies in the world, and they have an average revenue of $64 billion. The smallest of them still crosses $25 billion. But just to give you two examples, very modern examples, from the digitalization sector, where you think Germans don't play a role. TeamViewer is a global leader in so-called remote screen control, TeamViewer. And their software is installed on more than 2.5 billion devices. Can you imagine that?
No.
And the second example, LSTM, that stands for long short-term memory. That is the software behind Siri of Apple or Alexa of Amazon and similar artificial speech face recognition systems. LSTM is installed on more than 3 billion smartphones. Nobody knows these companies. They are hidden. And Apple, guess how many suppliers from Germany Apple has? 767 suppliers from Germany, all invisible, behind what you see, what you touch in your smartphone. And there are 767 companies from Germany as suppliers in the Apple products.
Is it the biggest amount of companies that Apple has from Germany than from other
Yes,
countries?
I think so. I don't have the numbers for other countries, but no country can have more suppliers in Apple than Germany.
Congratulations to Germany again. One more time.
Yeah, but you see, that is different from what you perceive. You perceive the Mercedeses and the BMWs,
yes.
But you don't see these hidden forces, because most of their products are not products which you see are not consumer products, but are the technology behind the visible surface. So we have dozens of companies which are leading in industrial processes. Or let me give you one other spectacular example. That's a so-called business ecosystem from Holland and Germany. And they make the huge machines for extreme ultraviolet lithography. These are the machines on which the ever smaller chips, computer chips, are produced. And the company which makes the end product is ASML. And they have two key players in this ecosystem. One is Trumpf. They make the laser. This laser has 450,000 components and weighs 17 tons. And the optical system is made by Zeiss, also from Germany, equally complex. And this ecosystem for extreme ultraviolet lithography has a global monopoly. Nobody else in the world can make these complex systems. And they cost billions.
Why nobody can do it?
Yeah, because they are so complex. That's high tech of the finest. It's extreme. If you think that the laser alone has 450,000 parts, components, you can imagine how, and that's only a part of the overall.
If this company is the monopolist on the market, don't you think that it's a good idea for us to invest money into the shares of this company?
By now, the shares are very high. If you had done it a couple of years ago, that would have been a very good investment. But I think you can still invest into them.
Yeah.
ASML. Yeah, they are publicly listed. Trumpf and Zeiss, the two other players, are private companies.
I lost recently a lot of money with shares of Volkswagen. It disappointed me a lot, actually.
Yeah, Volkswagen. But yet, then did you sell them already? Otherwise, I would suggest that you keep them.
I didn't sell anything because I decided to keep them.
Yeah, keep them because this year they sell more electric cars than Tesla. And in the meantime, I'm quite optimistic. The best electric car is now from Mercedes with a range of 780 kilometers. That's even far beyond EQT, called the model, far beyond what Tesla can offer. And the Germans will be serious competitors for Tesla in the electric automotive market.
You mean Mercedes, yeah?
Yeah, both Mercedes, Volkswagen, and Mercedes in the premium segment, and Volkswagen in the mass market, and also BMW.
Hermann, and tell me please, with all this digitalization and changing of the system of business in general, what is your forecast? You think that small and medium businesses will grow, or you think there will be completely new players on the market that never existed before, like Elon Musk, like Tesla, like companies like that, that will remove all these old companies? Like, what is your vision of the business now?
We will see both. Of course, there are sectors in these mid-sized hidden champions, companies which are active in sunset industry like combustion technology. They will have trouble to survive if they cannot switch to other products. On the other hand, we see many new companies emerging. Let me give you a couple of examples from the mobility sector. Volocopter is the first electric helicopter, and Volocopter just got the project from Dubai and Singapore to build the first autonomous air taxi system. That's the Volocopter's electric helicopter is flying, is certified, but to build an autonomous air taxi system is a big step forward.
Sorry, you say taxi system. There will be taxi like Volocopter.
Yeah, they are electric helicopters, and they will fly autonomously. And you are flown from Dubai airport to the city, and they got this project, both a project from Singapore and from Dubai, and are building this system. Another pioneer is Lilium. Lilium builds a vertical takeoff and horizontally flying plane. You can look it up, Lilium. And they just went public, a German company, public in New York, and have a valuation of about $4 billion. And another plane, which is in the making, is a hydrogen plane. It flies actually already. But to get these new technologies for aerospace certified takes 5 to 10 years. And the Germans are clearly leading in this sector. So these are new companies in a very new sector, electric aircraft and hydrogen aircraft. And for instance, we have the first hydrogen-powered train now running on a daily basis in Germany, in northern Germany. The first hydrogen-powered train. So we have a lot of innovation. Another sector which is becoming very, very important, and where the hidden champions are leading, is sustainability, recycling, remanufacturing, new materials, etc.
If we talk about automobile sector, you think that only the companies who produce electrical cars, they will be succeeding, or no?
Right now, that is a big wave, but I'm uncertain about the longer term. I think eventually hydrogen makes more sense than electricity. Problem of storage, the batteries, everything is actually quite complicated, and but nobody knows. I mean, many companies like Mercedes, BMW, Toyota are also developing hydrogen-powered fuel cell cars. But what will we have in 10 or 15 years? Nobody can say today.
Hermann, and what is your opinion about this Volocopter? Is it a good company to invest?
They are not public, but you have to be aware that these are very high risks. If they are successful, it will be good investment, but you should not invest money which you need into these very innovative ventures. That's similar to pharmaceuticals or biotechnology. It's always high risk. You see that, for instance, with corona vaccine that the company BioNTech from Germany, they were successful together with Pfizer, and there was another company, CureVac, which was actually more promising a year and a half ago, and they failed because their vaccine was not effective.
Yes, and there is one more company, Merck, I forgot what's the name, Merck and
Merck
Co.
in Darmstadt, yeah, Merck, Merck. That's a very old, very serious company. So investing in them is low risk, but
Low
you will
risk.
also not see a multiplication of the share price.
For you
So they
personally,
are
as a
very
person
solid,
who
very
knows,
research oriented.
yeah, Hermann, as a person who knows so many things about business, who teached and who wrote so many books, you personally, do you invest into shares or no?
I invest in shares, yeah. But I'm not a better investor, I would say, than the other guys. You cannot foresee the future. And I have a weakness. I don't realize gains, I don't realize losses when it's the right time. So, for instance, we had a big scandal in Germany, a company called Wirecard. They went up like a rocket, and then they imploded. They went bust, and I lost my investment. In another case, a company, Jumia Technology, I invested, and they went up. I didn't realize. Now they are down again. I'm still positive, but realizing gains and realizing losses is not my strength, I have to admit.
How come a person who is a specialist in true profit, who knows how business generating money, you wrote so many books, you know everything about hidden champions, you see, but investment, you say, is not your strength.
Yeah, when the price goes up of a stock, you expect that it will go further up. That's why you are not realizing. If it goes down, you expect that it will recover. And the case of Wirecard, that was a big fraud case where all the professionals failed, and there are processes underway against Ernst & Young, who was the auditor there. So that was a big fraud case, which most people couldn't think of that such a thing could happen in Germany. So
Hermann, as my last
the
question,
bigger picture
know, please,
behind this, the bigger
yes,
picture behind is that nobody can foresee the future.
Except the gods. Definitely, you're absolutely
Even
right.
a guy like Warren Buffett is a statistical necessity, because in all cases you will have a normal distribution. So you will have an average return, which is 7-8% in the long term with stocks. And you have some people who are much higher and some people who are much lower. But you don't know today who will be the Warren Buffett of the next 30 years. That's impossible. And another observation I have made when I talk with my money managers in Europe or in New York, they select then money managers who have been very successful in the last 5 or 10 years. And you can almost predict that the guys who have been very successful in the recent past will not be very successful in the next 5 or 10 years. So there is no certain way to beat the average or to beat the market. It's a lot of luck and the decisiveness to realize gains and losses, which is not my strength.
Hermann, as my last question to you, what you consider your biggest achievement by now?
My biggest achievement is my family, my children, and my grandchildren. And I am very proud of our company, Simon Kutscher and Partners. We are the global leader in price consulting. We have now 1,700 people who work in 42 offices all over the world. We also have an office in Dubai. And my best book is actually this book, my autobiography, Many Worlds, One Life, because that describes my career as a scientist, as an entrepreneur, as an author. So it's also the story of the hidden champions is in this book, and the story of pricing, where we are the global leader. Our company itself is a hidden champion. We are the number one in the world in price consulting. And
So
so
if I
these are
come
a
to
couple of
you
things I'm
and
proud of.
I want to know what is the best price for our products, this is where you can consult us, isn't it?
I give you one thing, and if you keep that in mind, it was worth listening to me. People ask me, what is the most important aspect of price and pricing? My answer is always the same: value, or more specifically, value to customer. And the Romans in their Latin language had the same word for value and price, namely pretium, like precious. So if you keep this formula, that is the fundamental rule of price, value equals pretium equals price. Value and balance and price must always be balanced. If you offer a higher value, you can afford to charge a higher price. If your value is lower than the competitive product's value, you have to charge a lower price. So what the challenge for pricing is to understand the value you are offering to your customers. And if you understand that value, you will get the price right.
That is very important. That sounds simple, but it's not simple. It requires
Very
a lot of
complicated. Yeah.
expertise.
And let me give you one other advice. Avoid Marxist pricing. What is Marxist pricing? Most people apply cost plus pricing. So they have the cost and they add a margin. And that's what I call Marxist pricing, because the famous theory of Karl Marx was the labor value theory, that value is only created by labor. That's cost. Labor is cost. That is not the decisive aspect of pricing. The decisive aspect of pricing is the value in the eye of the customer. If the customer, because you have a strong brand, you have a good design, a good packaging, good service, good quality, or whatever it is, sees a higher value in your product, you can charge more, independent of what it costs to make the product. An Apple smartphone costs 2 to 3 times more than a Samsung smartphone. Why? Because people are willing to pay. They see a higher value in the Apple phone.
That is smart. So
Not
customers
Marxist
will
pricing,
decide
but
what is your
pretium
price.
pricing. Yeah.
That is smart, because people will decide how much is the price, how much is the value. You can even consult the people. They will make better opinion than you will.
To recommend one other book in this context, that's also a very interesting book, Confessions of the Pricing Man. So there I confess what I did in pricing. Confessions of the Pricing Man.
Confession of the Pricing Man. I'm very happy, Hermann, to know you. I'm very happy that you have a lot of achievements, your family and your grandchildren, 30 books, and a lot of secrets on pricing. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a big pleasure. And we will use your secrets on pricing for sure. Thank you so much.